What's poppin', everybody? Hello and welcome to Popcorn Culture. My name is Ben Carlin and I am your host. Here with me today is my brother Jay, who will be in every episode.
I've made it back for yet another episode of The Pop. I have deemed it worth my time yet again.
You're having such a hot streak.
I
feel like 181 episodes in a row, you've successfully made it.
Yeah. I mean, man, we're cruising right here into the 80s. I told you the 70s was going to go fast.
What would be the scenario where you don't arrive and it's just an hour of me just taking some type of massive introspective deep dive with nobody to counter any of my thoughts? Or
Probably I have to imagine I would have to be like pretty sick or something.
Oh,
yeah, like
I don't
maybe
like thinking about this.
Like if I was like, well, it doesn't have to be like, terminally ill or something, but if I was just like sick, but also maybe there was like an important sponsor thing that was supposed to happen, and it would be like, what if Ben just has like a Ben's Thoughts episode?
Right, yeah.
Like, we can't not do it, but Jay can't be here, so this is something Ben does anyway.
Buckle up, everybody.
Here we go.
1 hour of inner monologue. Here we go.
Here we go.
Completely and utterly unfiltered. What will we talk about? Plungers for some reason, because that's the next thing that came to my mind.
Wow. Ben, how about a corny joke?
I would absolutely love a corny joke. Lay it on me.
All right, Ben, why don't scientists trust atoms?
Why don't scientists trust atoms?
No, because they make up everything.
It's so good.
I thought that was a pretty good one.
That's pretty solid. They do make up everything.
They sure
Just
do.
a bunch of liars.
Simulation confirmed.
Yeah, once again.
As ever.
I know. I feel like that's the real underlying.
It's all based on the pun. Atoms make up everything.
Yes, right. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Oh
They're like, look, the humans will perceive the atoms, but the atoms are liars because they make up everything, but they also make everything.
Yeah. It's
The
seriously.
machines have a real sense of humor, it turns out.
Classic machine.
Classic machines.
Okay.
What jokesters?
Can I talk to you about one of your least favorite topics, which is that of utopias?
Oh. All right, bring it on.
Okay. I won't talk about it for very long. I just had never noticed it before. One of Jay's least favorite topics for you listener at home is listening to me talk about utopias and whether or not it's the human's objective in life, which we won't get into.
Yeah.
But I thought it was very interesting because I think maybe, as I said last week or the week before, me and you both have been doing like a reread through of the Hunger Games, which has just been quite enjoyable and fun and stuff. But I have thought it was very interesting, the two varying depictions, because, we talk a lot about how President Coyne, who like leads up District 13 and sort of like the resistance to like the primary like capital, operations and whatever. It's like the whole thought there is that the name is extremely on the nose, that Coyne is the different side
of snow.
Right. Yeah. But the interesting thing about those two examples are, in some interesting way, I feel like you've got the depiction of reality underneath the Capitol, which is sort of like, it's utopia if you live in the Capitol,
right,
and not for literally everyone else. And then Coyne's version of it is much more of like that, like completely withdrawn, like they don't have like holidays or celebrations. Everything is all about like efficiency and like just like living up to like, like your meal rations are determined based on like your like height, weight, daily work schedule and everything. So it's like meticulously like spent, so there is no waste.
Right. It's like no one really gets to enjoy anything ever, but survival is almost guaranteed. And thus, because everyone has some, isn't that its own version of utopia?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So what I loved about it though is that like a lot of times I have posed these two examples to you where there's sort of like the WALL-E version of it, where there's like everybody aboard the Axiom and they just eat like smoothie food all day and like roll around, and it's just like there is no ambition, there is no anything. You just sort of like live this like fluffy existence of whatever. And then the other end of it is like much more like utilitarian in nature. But what I thought was interesting about it is I was like, I feel like the point the book is also trying to make is that neither of those is like
neither
like,
of those is really good.
They're both extremes on either end of like the utopia spectrum or whatever, or even just like existence spectrum. So
right. See, I don't even like the WALL-E example as a utopian thing. It's like that. I don't think that's like an accurate. It's like I don't even think that's a version of a utopia. Really, like to me, it's like a world where like you can just do whatever you want without consequence, and like everyone is generally happy and it's just like that's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Like, and so that's probably like where like and I think where usually the arguments between you and I stem from is usually like, I think I have like this difficulty of letting go of the existing reality. Like it's so hard to imagine a utopia correctly because you have to let go of like everything you currently know.
Right.
And so like it's like the idea is that like in an actual perfect version of it and not like a fictionalized version of it, everything just works seamlessly and fits together all the time and always.
Right,
And
without
like,
any like malicious behind the scenes things.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. It's just like total and complete equilibrium at every single point in time, all the time and always. Which also in some ways paints the depiction of just how unattainable this concept is.
Right.
You know, in and of itself, just because like that would be like, you know, just a complete and utter world without conflict essentially, but also like all of the necessary fulfillment that you want in the meantime. Otherwise,
I think most people call it heaven.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, right, yeah. But so I think that's where I usually like remain latched onto the like I always think about like, you know, like the idea of your success is usually at the like if you think about it from a sports perspective, like your success is at the cost of someone else's not success, so to speak. Like, you know, like the underdog that wins the grand championship. It's like, that's really awesome if you're the underdog who wins the grand championship. But it also means that like, in order for you to win the grand championship, somebody else had to lose the grand championship, and that would have to mean that would be their ambition.
Right, but in a true utopian society, people wouldn't care about being the losers. They'd have just appreciated the sportsmanship. Like they'd be good sports about it.
Right. Yeah. I like that. That's a really, really good argument for it, I think, as well, because it's like, you know what? It was just awesome to be here.
Exactly.
You know, it's like we got to play at the top of our game. They're the best. We're the best. Like, look, it all shook out to exactly how it should.
Everyone was entertained, and we all had a lot of fun.
Right. Yeah. Congratulations to those guys. Like,
yeah, we'll get them next time.
Exactly. Yeah. Which at the end of the day, it's like, oh, positive attitude.
Right.
Okay. That's everybody's assignment for the day. Try to assume a positive attitude.
I know. Well,
assume the best in everyone.
This is like there was a really I don't know. I was recently watching an interview with I think it was an I don't know which NBA player it was, but I think they were recently eliminated from like the playoffs or whatever, and they were like, so would you guys consider the season a failure or whatever? And it was like, why would we consider it a failure? Like, we won more games than we lost, and we made it deep into the playoffs, and we, you know, everyone got better. Like, is every team a failure that doesn't win the championship? Like, absolutely not. you know?
Right.
Like, do you think if you owned the team that lost the Super Bowl, you'd consider your season a failure? Like, absolutely not.
Oh,
you know?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
you did amazing.
Right.
You know? Like I don't. It's like weird what people contextualize as failure,
right?
You know,
that's the thing. It's like if you can only look at the world as if there is only one winner, then that's a sad way to look at the world,
right?
Yeah. And so that would basically mean that nothing is ever enough unless you are the person who succeeded above all else. Whew. Deep stuff. In other news, you got to use a chainsaw over the weekend for the first time. I sure
did.
Hard left turn.
Hard left turn. Okay, yeah. So, in my yard there's a large tree that has just been growing branches down lower and lower over the years. And it's gotten to the point where you cannot approach the trunk of the tree without having to like sway through them and maneuver through the branches.
Ooh.
So the issue is that you can't mow beneath the tree.
Okay.
Because you'll run into the branches. So it's basically impossible. So I needed to trim the bottom branches of the tree such that you could walk a circle around the tree comfortably, so you could mow beneath the tree.
Nice.
But as ever, whenever you're dealing with like nature, it's like you look at it and you're like, what's that, like 10 branches or something? And you get going and it's like, man, trees are huge.
Just like massive. Yeah, absolutely.
This is one tree.
Yes.
Yeah. But so anyway, I recently inherited a chainsaw.
Nice.
A corded chainsaw
from
Beth's grandfather, and I have to say, just shout out to him, because I personally never met him, because he actually passed away the year before Beth and I started dating, way back in high school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so this is her grandmother recently passed away, and so that her parents have been having to figure out what to do with all of their remaining possessions and stuff. And so he just had all these tools sitting in the basement for over a decade now that I don't think her grandmother was using ever.
Sure.
Probably. But so I inherited a bunch of tools, and I was like, one of them was a corded electric chainsaw, and it to my knowledge, I don't know if it's been used since then, but it fired right up, and you could tell he was the sort of person who took care of his tools meticulously, and it still worked.
Amazing.
So I was like, man, that was pretty cool. I wasn't sure, but I've never used a chainsaw ever before at all. I haven't used like hedge trimmers before, like anything with a motor to cut stuff.
Okay.
Haven't done it. So part of me was like, I'm pretty sure all you do is just, push the button and press it to the branch and it just goes through, and that's all you have to really expect. And for the most part, yes, that's exactly how it worked. But like there's no doubt that there's a certain amount of like this is working efficiently, but also it feels dangerous. Like there's no doubt this thing would like rip you apart if it touched you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why it's like a classic like horror film.
Yeah.
Like prop piece.
Yeah,
because I mean, it's like being near one, even not on. It's sometimes like, I should probably take a class before I'm allowed to touch this thing.
That is almost how I felt like as it's going, because like I'm using, it's a pretty small chainsaw, all things considered, and I'm cutting through pretty small branches. But at the same time, every now and then you'd come across one branch that was maybe just a little bit thicker, took like a little bit longer to go through. And as it's going through, like you're watching and you're slowly making the progress. And I'm like, should I move back and forth like a regular saw? Does that like help it like go further in the groove? Or is that like, nope, just let it work its magic. It'll get there eventually. That's the appropriate thing to do. And I'm like, I don't know what the answer is.
Sure.
But it seems like, if you press down a little, that'll go a little bit further. And then like sometimes you'd be watching and you could see the chain almost sort of like have this like ripple effect on the top. And you're like, should it be rippling like that? Is that like normal? And you just sort of like, this is how it works, and that's fine. No reason to be concerned. Or is the chain about to come off, and I'm about to get like whipped with metal or something?
Whipped with barbed metal.
Yeah, whipped with barbed metal. Like I mean, so it didn't come off, and it worked fine. So it's like one of those things where I'm just like, every time I like thought I was done, I'd like take a step back and I'd look at the tree and be like, that branch probably also still needs one, and I'd be like, am I about to be like, man, if I hadn't done that last branch,
Right, yes.
Like so often, like when we're skiing, there's so often this like sentiment, like whenever you think the last run it's the one before that is when you should stop.
Okay, yeah. Because the last run is like nothing good happens on the last run.
Like if you if you are thinking about like, do we have time for one? Should we just go do one more and that'll be the last one? Stop there, because the point of you making that decision is no one's hurt.
Right. Yes.
Right. Like,
yes.
If you leave now, everyone's good, guaranteed.
Right.
And if you go down, like the chances are everyone's still fine. But there's also every single time you go down the slopes, you are a little bit more tired, and it's a little bit darker. And it's like you're a great skier. You've been skiing all day and your whole life, but you are a little more fatigued. And even maybe it's just like 0.1%, but it goes up maybe a little every time. Your muscles are just really tired.
Right.
And if you go down and you get hurt on the very last run, that is going to be so bad when you could leave right now and go get a beer.
I think there's also something to like the last run energy as well, because you're sort of like, it's like last one,
exactly,
may as well
make
send
it count.
Yeah,
full send.
This is exactly what happened to us. It was like 2 years ago before brother-in-law Mike's like wedding. We were like 2.5 months out or whatever, and we were all mountain biking. I know I talked about it on the pop and everything as well. And we were doing like this big jump line, and we literally got to the very last jump on the last run of the day. And he was like, it's like, heck, why not? May as well go for it, right? Came clean over the handlebars, landed on his face, had to be taken to the hospital immediately. One of the most like traumatic experiences of my personal life, because it was
bike
just
crashes
like,
suck.
I know. Yeah, it was just like, I mean, like his eye was swollen shut and there was blood It was like, oh my gosh.
Like, oh.
Yeah. But anyway, he ended up being completely fine, miraculously and
Yeah.
amazingly. So it was like huge relief. But anyway, yeah, last run energy, it's just
Last
like,
run
it's
energy,
a thing.
right.
But so back to your chainsaw story.
But so back to the chain. So I will say I successfully. The other thing was that like I have this like contraption left in my garage from the previous owners, and it's just like an extension cord that's mounted to the wall that will retract itself back, and it's like pretty long.
Handy.
Yeah, it's pretty handy. So I'm like a big fan of that. But even so, it wasn't enough to get me even close to the tree. So I had asked you before we met up for our 3/4 Murph, which we did this past weekend.
We did indeed.
Yes, we
check
did.
mark.
Boom, nailed it. It was a little bit harder, no doubt. But if I could borrow an extension cord, and you brought me one, and I was like, boom, bam, this is going to be great. And then even when I had that one, it was not far enough. And I was like, man, I cannot believe this. So I had to go dig out. We have this other one on our porch that we used for just like our string lights up there. And I was like, because I was so close. And that one got me like to, I would say, about 40% of the branches I needed to get to. But at the same time, I'm like, I feel like there's probably some wisdom in not like daisy chaining extension cords together and operating a chainsaw. Like, it feels like I'm playing with fire or something.
Welcome to the J. Carlin School of Home Repair.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I don't think you're supposed to do this. I will say, and ultimately I still, because I could only get to like half the branches, we had to go ask one of our neighbors if we could borrow one of their extension cords, at which point I was like, I'm at least just going to replace mine with theirs because theirs is longer, so I'm not daisy chaining 4 of them. Yeah, but I feel like someone at home is listening like, oh my God, don't do that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, certainly.
I know. But anyway, I did it and I made it. So let me ask you, what does it sound like I was doing anything? Have you used a chainsaw before?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I do own a chainsaw, like a gas powered chainsaw. And it is, I mean, I know that I've talked quite a bit about my love for splitting wood.
Yeah.
Which resides to this day. And I'm not entirely sure that in retirement, I'm not going to open up a like log splitting therapy session where you just come and like split logs. And
splitting logs is fun, man.
I mean, it's just like, it's such
satisfying.
It's a cathartic experience. And that was exactly how my first ever chainsaw experience went. And I will tell you that like, I remember the moment because it brought me back from just like I was just in like a pit of despair.
Yeah.
And it was such an interesting experience because it was, I was doing my aquarium retail store while I was in college. And sort of like during that period of time had met this guy out of Florida who was doing these like really unbelievable aquarium installations like across the country and the globe. And, he's like one of the best in the world, like did the aquariums at like Smithsonian and just all sorts of incredible stuff. So I'm sort of like looking at like, his entire business model, and I'm looking at like what I'm currently doing. And I'm like, well, the last thing I want to do is like, be kind of like in this like retail environment every day, just because that's not like where I in particular thrive. Like I would rather be out there like trying to like push the boundaries onto the next or whatever. And so I basically like, took his business model. I was trying to apply it here. We had the aquariums center in the square in downtown Roanoke. He ended up being roped in, to like help us do the installation, sort of like the lead man on the job so that we knew how to do like some of the more technical stuff and everything. And I mean, to say that I was like just tossed into the deep end is such a drastic understatement. And for like months and weeks on end, this entire crew, weeks and months on end rather, this entire crew had like come up and they're like living in Roanoke while they're like normally like Florida residents and everything. And that means that like weekends aren't a thing anymore because you're like, they're here,
Right.
So it's like they want to get back to their homes, their families, like all the rest of everything. So it's like for months, it's just like 7 days a week, from 7 in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. I'm just like tired and exhausted and, like running myself full tilt. And I'm just, the biggest thing really isn't even like the physical exhaustion. It's the mental version of every single thing that I was doing. I was essentially doing properly for the first time.
Right.
And so, I mean, it was just like nothing had muscle memory. Everything was like this like huge learning experience. And it was on like the highest scale of like what Roanoke aquarium life could look like.
Right.
So I was just like, I'm just like trying to do my absolute best. And I think that like I was so dogged by it. And, not to the fault of anybody, just literally like this is just like what like my personal like earning my stripes moment looked like. And one of the big aquarium attractions that we were doing was like a local turtle species. And so brilliantly, I had the idea that we should go to like a flood zone near the Roanoke River and collect large pieces of driftwood that we could use inside of the tank to make it even that much more authentic.
Right.
Like we're not using like store-bought decorations. We're using like real logs.
Real
from
driftwood.
from the real river.
From their environment.
From these real, from where the real turtles had been like collected from and everything. And so we got this huge, I mean, the log must have weighed like 350, 400 pounds. I mean, it was just huge. It took up the entire back of like a volunteer's pickup truck. He had like met me out next to the river.
Oh my gosh.
We're out there. We're trying to like figure out how to get it inside. And I have like the trembles because I feel like this part of the project, I think had like really been something where they're like, Ben, we're going to let you figure it out. Like, fully just go. And I get there and it's just like this situation where it's like, there's no way in the world that we're going to be able to fit this log into this aquarium because it is so big.
Right.
The volunteer who helped, he's like driving this like really cool old little pickup truck. He goes in, he's like, I got my chainsaw. Should we cut some pieces off of it? And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And I don't even know how to tell you how much like I desperately needed this like release.
Yeah.
Because I was so tired. I was so frustrated. I felt so lost in the experience. And he's like, yeah, here you go. Like, give it a shot. And so I start like carving like huge chunks off of this chainsaw or off this log.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I came back to life.
Oh,
like,
really?
Yes. I swear. I mean, like it was a visible, like, you know, we've talked before about like quote from Name of the Wind or whatever, like, you know, looking like 3 feet taller and like flames on his shoulders and all the rest, you know, it's like, I feel like I went from just feeling like miserable and sad and like worried and like out of my league to just being like, you know, like the roar of the chainsaw and the physical nature of it and everything. It was like, boom. And then I got the log inside of the aquarium and it was like, there we go.
There you go.
We
Did it. Looks great.
I know. It looks great. And then you want to know what the worst part is?
What?
It ended up being the worst decision in the world because
oh no,
most driftwood in aquariums is like it's not petrified wood, but it's like largely like wood that has been sunk underwater for such a long period of time that it doesn't float or rot.
Oh,
and
interesting.
This particular log was not that. So it just slowly rotted for like the next 4 years and I eventually had to remove it anyway.
Oh, no.
But the point is I got to use a chainsaw for the first time and it was just like it just like it really did bring me back to life. It was really cool. So
very cool.
Yeah, I think it probably has some small piece to do with my affinity for like all things wood related.
Okay.
You know, it's just like, yeah, being able to like get out there and like I think that's why it's like swinging an axe. It's just definitely got this like I don't even know. It's like it's like there is skill involved. You can be good at it. People are good at it. I am not one of those people.
Right.
However, like the sweat and the blisters and all the rest of it, it's like, oh man,
it's a good release.
It is a good release.
So did you get like lessons from this guy about how to use the chainsaw, or did he just hand it to you and it was just like, yeah, there's really no way to mess up?
Well, I think that's where like even as you were describing it, I was like chainsaws are like the game of tack, simple in design, easy to learn.
Right.
But strategies can be like extremely complicated in nature. And so I have a friend who worked for the Forest Service, and he has explained to me before that like the guys who have like their like who work for the Forest Service and they have their chainsaws, it's like they are like a third limb for these people. You know, it's like they know their chainsaws inside out. They baby them like unbelievably, like, and they know all of the meticulous cuts and moves and movements and everything that you have to do to like successfully like yield the right product. Meanwhile, if I'm ever like cutting a branch off of something, half the time it'll like pinch the blade and then the blade gets stuck and then I have to like prop it up somehow, and it's like a whole it's a whole lesson in just like,
I didn't have that problem at all.
That away.
No pinching.
I'm very proud of you.
Yeah.
Were you cutting from the top going down then, I guess? Excellent.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because I felt like if I went from the bottom, then it would pinch.
Yeah, it would pinch. Yeah. The real trick is the issue of when the log is like already tipped over and laying on the ground in some capacity. And
then it's like,
where
yeah,
it's
then
like,
it's
you know,
like, yeah.
You want to cut from the top and then it pinches up. I don't know. It's a whole thing.
I can see how that'd be a problem. You need to like make a V first or something, and then
yeah. But okay. I think you did great.
Well, cool.
It sounds like you got through the experience. So did you find afterwards that you felt better?
I mean, it was like a marathon day of like projects for me. So like first we woke up and we went and we did the 3/4 Murph.
Yep.
Which was you know, obviously it was like it's so like we're doing this thing where we're trying to work up from the half to the 3/4 to the full, which we'll be doing next weekend, and it's like it doesn't feel so bad doing the half, but it's not like it's certainly not linear in difficulty. It is still exponential.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
It's like doing the workouts ahead of time does help you prepare for the next one, but it's like not only do you have to do 5 more rounds of like the squats and the push-ups and the pull-ups, but the run itself is longer ahead of time, and the run after is longer. And I feel like that is really where it starts like scaling up on you. So the next one, the fact that you're gonna have to run a mile, like a full mile, and then do even more than you were doing, and then run the full mile again, it's just like,
in case you haven't been listening to our saga, the Murph in form is usually run a mile, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 air squats, and then run another mile.
Yeah.
And usually the way that we do it is we break it up into like a full Murph would be 20 sets of 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 air squats, and then just repeat, all the way through that sequence.
Yeah.
And so we've done like 10 sets, 15 sets, and then this upcoming weekend we'll do 20 sets to close out our Murph. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Like I was like, we did like our 2 halves, and it was kind of like, I pretty much got to the end of them and was like, that was a workout. Like we worked out this morning.
Oh,
so,
absolutely.
It was like not bad, but like, yeah, I think coming off of this past weekend, I was proper spent.
Yeah,
I was like,
very tired. Yeah,
okay.
but so I came home immediately from that and basically started my chainsawing and got through all of that. And then I had to, once all the branches were down, then I had to like move them from beneath the tree to like the brush pile next to the road. And it was like, I kept dragging them over there. And it was like, if you look at it now, it's like a small hill outside of my house. It's like, man, trees are big. Trees are big. Yes, they are. So that was like a whole second extra chore on top of it. And then we basically went right from there into constructing the Nick and Nate's big boy beds. Yeah, we talked a little bit before, but basically we're preparing for potty training. So we want them to be able to get out of their beds freely so that they can go potty if they need to. So we had to build the beds first, which, is like just at first you have to get the old cribs out of the room, and they're like, I think a regular door is like 30 inches across or something.
Right.
These cribs, so frustrating. They're like 31 inches.
So it's
it feels like you're so close, and we literally had the tape measure out, and we're like, well, if we take the door off, will we be able to get it? And it was like, I still don't think so.
Did you consider just bringing the chainsaw upstairs?
I did not.
Just slicing them suckers clean in half?
I did not. Well, because we had ambitions of like giving the old cribs to like newer moms or like a women's shelter or something like that
of
to
course,
like reuse them or something.
That makes way more sense than my idea.
It does. I will say, but it's like at the same time you're taking them apart and you're like, man, these are pretty beat up and gross.
Sure.
After being used for 3 years by my toddlers, and then we started calling around. And it's like apparently with stuff like this, like the safety regulations changes on them so rapidly that like if they're not like from the last year, they're basically unacceptable and stuff. And they were, I don't know. So I don't think much is going to become of them because they are pretty beat up and disgusting and out of date at this point. Okay. So unfortunate in that regard. But anyway, it took a while to take them apart and then to assemble the new beds, which then, they take out it's like in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, we'll just put their new beds in and they'll take up the same space the cribs took up. But of course that's not true. They're way bigger.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like suddenly now you have to rearrange the whole room.
It's a slider puzzle.
It's a slider puzzle. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like in Survivor, like we have to like go through and like move all the pieces around. It's like, well, I have to move the thing where it needs to be away from the thing where it's supposed to be so that I can put this other thing there so that thing can go here.
Exactly. So we figured it out and got everything back in the room. And there is like this new part of me now that we're like so close to the potty training that I feel like it is reminding me of like the 2 weeks after I had turned in my letter of resignation at the Berglund Center, where it's just like your motivation is on this like very slow decline for the next 2 weeks.
Yes.
Where you're just like, like I'd worked there for, 5 years and I was proud of the work I did there. And, but every single day you're there, you're like, I don't have to really worry about this. This is not going to be my problem.
Yeah.
And then I remember like at one point someone like my boss coming in and be like, so I know you've only got like a couple weeks left, but I really still need you to like finish this thing. And it'd be like, yeah, of course. And then you like feel momentarily reinvigorated. Like I'm going to go out on a high note. And so there's this like sudden spike of motivation. And then that lasts for like 2 days. And you're like, yeah, it's not going to be my problem.
Right. It's like, well, if I'm not here, then you can't really. So, and I'm going to go work for myself.
I'm going to be working for myself. So, yeah. But so that's how I'm starting to feel about changing diapers.
Oh,
At the moment, where every time there's like another poopy diaper, it's like I don't really mind. I've been changing diapers nonstop for 5 years now, but it's like now you're like really close to the finish line. You're like, oh my gosh, this is just like. The fact is, I really prefer not to have to do this every day.
Dude, I swear, I think I've always like kind of referred to this as like the roommate principle, where it's like you live with somebody.
It's exactly what it is.
Through college, and it's like whenever you have roommates hard stop, it's like whether or not you notice it, and many of you maybe do, but like there are always going to be things that the roommate is actively doing that are bothering you that you don't realize how much they're bothering you because you know that you have to like make peace and live together.
Exactly.
And then when you're in like, it's kind of like that like last few weeks of that period of time, and it's like, dude, could you please do the dishes?
Right.
Like, please?
Yeah, like once the finish line is in sight, it's suddenly like, boy, it's all of those things that bother you suddenly like really come to the surface. So I'm like, I really cannot wait to not have to change any more diapers anymore. And it's like not only that, but it means like that means if I don't have to change diapers, it's like I cannot tell you like it's like the number of changes for the positive this means are like so great.
Yeah.
Because it means that one, I can get rid of the diaper pails in the house.
Right.
Which means the house won't smell like occasionally bad after like a bad poop,
like,
you know?
Like diaper.
Yeah, it won't smell like diaper. And it means I won't have to buy the diaper pail bags. And I won't have to buy wipes. And I won't have to buy the diapers. And I can get rid of the changing tables.
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
It's just like all of these things. It's like not only will I not have to wipe your butt anymore, but I will also be saving so much money and space and smell in my house. So all of a sudden, like the potential like reaping of the fruit is so close, and I'm like, I really don't want to change these diapers anymore. So like, I really want them diaper or potty trained like yesterday.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, it's wild too because I mean, you guys kind of like dovetailed a little bit between like having Luke and his potty training relative to the twins. So like, I mean, you've been in like a probably, how old is Luke now? Like 5.5?
Yeah.
So you mean 5.5 years of diapers being a daily part of your life.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And it was like there was some crossover time where it was 3 kids who had diapers at the same time. And once Luke graduated, you know, just completely out of it, it was so great because you're like, oh man, that's like one whole less kid. But you would still have like a net negative because like even though it was one less, it was still one more than it had been.
Right.
you know, because you went from 1 to 3. So yeah, I really can't wait, and I feel like it's very soon in my future. And I hope they just, you know, take to it swiftly.
There we go.
We're just good to go.
There we go.
And we can start making way for other stuff.
I can't wait to see like what type of new activity. You'll have to call it your diaper hobby.
Yeah.
You know, and I would encourage you to tell everybody, like, I got a new diaper hobby.
Got a new diaper hobby.
And people are going to be like, what is a diaper hobby? And it's like, okay, here, sit down, listen.
Here we go.
Diapers be expensive.
Diapers be expensive.
They take time.
They take time.
Now I have that extra money and time available to do something else.
Exactly.
And space. Did I mention the space?
Did I mention the space? There's a whole corner of my otherwise very nice sitting room that will not be a changing table.
Yes. Yes.
So that's pretty good. I can't wait for that to all be done. But so to answer your question, after using the chainsaw and going through all my projects, yes, I felt very good. Because it was like I honestly remember walking up the stairs on Saturday night like to go to bed, and like my brain suddenly remembered, it's like, hey, you forgot to be stressed about things today. And I was like, hey, that's good. I am now, but, but like, yeah, you're right.
That is, I know. I always think this is like a very interesting thing, but like, you know, if you have trouble sleeping, I feel like there's usually like it's like a blend between are you physically tired? Are you physically wearing yourself out every day? And are you mentally wearing yourself out every day?
Yeah.
And I feel like they're two very different things, you know, like one can do one or the other, but I feel like when you've done both are the days like where you can get into bed at the end of the day and like be like completely like at peace.
Yes.
And I feel like it's like, okay, I can go and rest now.
Right.
Everything will be okay.
I do remember trying to like do exactly that at one point, working at the concert venue. It was like getting towards the end where like I thought I had this like great solution that like where like I was feeling so stressed at work and I was not sleeping well all the time, but I also had like recently just discovered podcasts in general as like a thing.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh man, and I had like this whole, and at that time I think it was like the early days of YouTube where I was subscribed to like 5 of them, and it was like, oh man, it's so exciting like when new episodes come out and I'm trying to catch up on all of them and I don't want to miss any.
Yeah.
And so I was like, but I don't have enough time to even listen to all of them. But and I'm having trouble, But so my solution was to like wake up early every day at like 6 o'clock or something and go for like a 1 hour walk where I would then have woken up early, which conceivably would have extended my day to make me more tired. Sure. I would have exercised, which would also conceivably have made me more tired. And I would have added like a whole hour of podcast listening time. So it seemed like it was going to be this like great solution that would maybe like help me sleep at night. And ultimately what happened was that I just got sick.
Oh no.
I know. I remember like the next week I had just like a head cold from I guess it was cold outside, so maybe I was getting up and walking in the cold every morning, and that wasn't great.
Right, the time of year.
And that time of year. So anyway, then I had just a different problem, and I don't even think it helped with the sleep or whatever. So ultimately, totally failed experiment. But in my mind, it was such a perfect alignment of all the things that were going to help me like excel and listen to more. And I did listen to a lot of podcasts, so that was fun.
There's that.
So there was that. I had a week of that.
So you're smarter.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
So there's that.
That is a great segue, though, into an exciting invitation that we can extend to all of the little kernels who are out there listening at the moment, because we are officially launching the first, not our first ever step competition, our first ever public step competition.
Yes.
So it is called Miles Managed, kind of like a wizarding theme, but you're going to be traveling from the iconic King's Cross Station in London up to an uncharted magical castle in Scotland.
Not entirely uncharted, because like a while ago, we made a video about like Hogwarts' exact location discovered.
Yes.
And so that was like our theory for where the actual Hogwarts castle is in real life, or like where like it, canonically would be if it existed.
Right.
And it was a super fun video because it was like, we found like a lake with like a ruined castle in the middle of it, and it met the requirements for everything you knew from the books. And then even if you like tried to look at the castle from Google Maps, like the closest spot you could get to it, like if you did the 360 view, there was this like one pixelated square, and it happened to be exactly over the castle, which is also like how they describe what happens when muggles look at the castle. It's like, yeah, you just sort of forget, or you'll just see ruins or something. And it was like, yeah, you can't even see it on the one square on Google Maps. It is like, this is it. It's perfect. It's in the middle of a lake. It's like, so we used those coordinates for this step competition. So the idea is, you're walking from King's Cross Station in London to our theorized magical school location.
Yes.
And go ahead.
No, I mean, it's just going to be so cool because we've never done anything like this before, but it's like an adventure challenge. So as you move forward, you're a little like dot on the map. Like you'll have like your own individual dot, and it will like travel up up the United Kingdom as you make it through like all of like our little checkpoints and everything. And Jay and I had an absolute blast going through and devising. I think there's 10 checkpoints total, but like along the way you'll like encounter different like magical creatures and different things. And like we had like a lot of fun like having like the art made, specifically like for each of those. So
yes.
It feels like I keep calling it like a diet light D&D campaign, sort of, kind of, because there aren't really any decisions that you can make along the way, but you will encounter things and sort of have like a running narrative as you go from start to finish.
Right.
And it's pretty cool. So like it's, you can do a max travel distance from like any step tracker that you have, whether it's like a Fitbit or Apple Watch or any of the various things. Your phone, every smartphone has a pedometer built into it as well. So you can just use that if you don't have anything else. But you can travel up to 6 miles a day, and at most the entire journey we have it scaled to like 120 total miles. So at most, or at the fastest you can finish is in 20 days.
Right.
And I'm so curious to see if there's like a leader pack of people, because you'll be able to see everybody else's dots as they travel as well.
Yeah.
And
So the way it'll work is, you'll have the Pacer app, which we've used for our other like step competition things we've done. And obviously you're not actually walking the distance between the two places, but as you walk around in the real world, it will calculate distance for you and apply it to our predetermined map.
Yeah,
And you'll
exactly.
move forward.
And you'll move forward.
And so, we've scaled it so that it's 120 miles and the max amount you can move per day is 6 miles. So obviously, like if you walk around in your real life, like for 10 miles or whatever, that's great. It will only count 6 of them towards the
total
competition.
distance.
But
Yeah.
so if you do 3 miles a day, it'll take you like 60 days, right?
3 miles a day would be half distance, so that would take you 40 days.
Okay, 40 days.
Yeah. And so and you can start anytime after June 1st and run up to July 31st. And we'll have a link to all this in the show notes for today's show. It is completely free to participate, so like there's absolutely no cost involved or anything like that. We do have participation medals as well as the t-shirt that I'm actually wearing right now if you're viewing like the video version of the pop, and a really cool water bottle. So all those things are available over at Carlin Motors Mercantile. So if you want like a medal to commemorate the experience, we've got something like that. I think they're gonna be really like I can't wait to physically get mine. I think it's gonna be so cool.
Yeah. So when you get there, you can just put the medal on and boom, you will have finished the miles managed competition.
2023.
Yeah, but it is super fun because when we've done this in the past, it's like we've only been like in teams. So this time it's just everyone just sort of trekking together.
Fend for yourself.
But it's so fun like watching the leaderboard. And so I suspect there will be I expect there to be like a leader pack that does the 6 miles every day, but then there will be people who just sort of like continuously finish day after day as we move along.
Yes. It's gonna be really neat. I think I'm so excited for it. So if you've never done one of our step competitions, like don't feel any hesitation. Like I think probably it's even the case that like just throughout the course of your day, you're probably stepping more miles than you think you are.
Right.
And so it's like you don't really even need to like necessarily upscale your existing activity all of that much to partake.
Yeah, but hopefully it motivates you to move around a little more.
There you go. Anyway, from there we can probably just move to a transition. Okay, Jay, I had kind of an interesting piece of feedback from a little Kernel over the weekend. And it was like the type of thing that I was kind of like, no way. But last week on After the Final Pop, which is like one of our Patreon extra shows that we do, we had talked a little bit about how I had a close friend who I'd encouraged to read Name of the Wind, who had claimed that he had basically taken like many different stabs at the apple and could never really like get that into it. And I was always like, no. Like I tell this to everybody. It's like it's like you got to commit to it. Like it's like
you got to get to the university.
Yeah, it's like I know it's a slog in the beginning, and like
they drop you in at 60 miles an hour.
Right, like all the things, and basically he got to the end of it, and he was just like, honestly, man, it just wasn't my thing. Like and so that's like what I was talking about on After the Final Pop, and the feedback that I got from a little Kernel out there, I was like, oh my gosh. And so like there was a part of me that felt like I had never considered this possible potential, but so I wanted to discuss it with you. So you don't even know what I'm about to say.
You're right, I don't.
But so what this was, and sort of my entire commentary in After the Final Pop was like, what I love about Name of the Wind is that I trust myself enough to not let like someone else's opinion impact my own. Like this is not something where you could come in and like explain to me why it's not good, and I'll be like, oh, all right, well then I won't like it anymore. Right. But like but that can happen with plenty of things in my life where it's like somebody points it out, it's like no, like you see like here's where there's an issue. It's like, oh, I didn't realize that. Okay. But and so it's like I feel very like secure in my enjoyment of this thing, and I've just sort of like unironically loved it like through and through. However, this particular close friend of mine had finally got through the entire story, and he was just like, dude, it's not for me, man. Like I just I didn't like it for these reasons and whatever. And so the person who wrote in was like, I was so happy to hear you talk about someone who is like a close friend of yours who read Name of the Wind and didn't enjoy it, because I also read Name of the Wind and did not enjoy it and have been feeling guilty about it, because as like a fan of like the pop and like Super Carlin Brothers and stuff, he's like, I feel like I always really appreciate y'all's recommendations, and I normally love everything you guys do recommend. And I was feeling like in some way,
like you let us down,
like you let us down by not enjoying
yeah.
it or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, I know that we have it's like a bingo square. We've talked about Name of the Wind through and through. We've made fan theories about it, like on SCB Main and stuff like that. Like it's definitely something that I think has become like a big piece of me and yours friendship, even even beyond our brotherhood, I would say.
Indeed.
So I was like, man, maybe I should bring this up in the main episode, because I wonder if there's anybody else out there who is kind of like, guys, I don't really see it. Like it was fine, but I didn't get into it the way that you guys seem to have gotten into it. And so I wanted to bring it up, because I was like, I wonder if there's anybody we need to like let off the hook who has also maybe been in the same position as this particular person. Because I was like, that it's such an interesting perspective, and is something I had genuinely never considered before.
Yeah.
Like the outside chance that somebody would be like, they love it so much, and I'm not there.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I mean, if you've read it and you didn't enjoy it, I don't think you need to feel. You certainly don't need to feel guilty or like you owe us your enjoyment of Name of the Wind.
Name of the Wind
yeah.
or anything. Yeah, but no, I don't know. I mean, I just thought it was curious. I thought it was interesting. It was not something that had crossed my mind in the past. So
yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else in my past where I've like felt guilty for not enjoying it in particular when it seemed like I was supposed to or something. I feel like the closest thing I can come up with is the movie That Thing You Do, which like everyone in our family just like really loves, and the music in it is like, very catchy. If you haven't seen it, it's a movie that is like, I guess it came out in like the 90s. It's got Tom Hanks as the manager of this band called The Wonders, and they're just sort of like I don't know, like the Beatles-esque kind of band.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely kind of going for that. Like the lead singer sort of has like that Beatles vibe, a little bit the haircut, and they've named themselves, like the running joke that they're like the Oneaters, because like the Beatles spell the Beatles BEAT, like beat, like music beat.
Yeah.
Not like Beetle the Bug.
Right.
But then that's like what the Wonders are doing. So it's not like WONDERS. It's ONE.
But they keep calling them the Oneaters.
The Oneaters.
Yeah. And they're like, no, it's just the Wonders. We're changing the spelling to Wonders. WON.
Yeah.
But like, I remember like growing up and like our family just like really liked this movie, and I like the entire I remember the first time I saw it like feeling like, well, I can tell you the full story.
Okay.
The first time we watched That Thing You Do, which the song is very catchy and very fun, I remember feeling like very upset on that night in particular, because we had gone to the video rental store and I was like, and like we had like walked past like the there was like a big shelf full of James Bond GoldenEye movies that like was now available to rent.
Okay.
And I remember being like, oh my gosh, so exciting. Like, Dad, can we please get this? And he was like, nope. One of my coworkers told me this movie, That Thing You Do, is really great. And it was like one of those where like one of the very few times where Dad was like insistent that we get That Thing, like a different movie from what the kids wanted or something.
Sure.
And I guess it's perfectly good like family movie or whatever, and probably more appropriate than GoldenEye for a fourth grader.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, GoldenEye, like it's like one of those things where you go back and you look at it and you're like, huh.
Yeah, it's like when you just James Bond in general is not really for kids,
right? Yeah, not so much.
Like, yeah, no, there's just a bunch of killing and womanizing and stuff, and yeah. Anyway, I was like upset, and so I think like I had like a certain like spitefulness against the movie, because not only did we not get to watch the movie that I wanted to watch, but then like the worst case scenario was that the next day both of my best friends at school had the very previous night rented GoldenEye and watched it individually, and it's all the whole class could talk about, and I was like, I'm so mad. I was like, this is it, and everyone's just talking about it, and I knew it, and I was so mad, and I didn't like that other movie, and so that was my early vendetta against That Thing You Do.
Okay. So I'm following. So, but it sounds like in addition to, so you're not just simply saying like the dislike of it was amplified, because it sounds like the way that you phrased it was like, we didn't get to watch a movie I wanted to watch, and instead watched a movie I didn't like to watch.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So it occurred to me that like for a long time, that was the reason I didn't like That Thing You Do.
Okay.
Because of my early vendetta with posing that against GoldenEye, the James Bond movie.
Got it.
But at like years later, after that whole debacle was over and whatever, it occurred to me that like maybe maybe you need to give it
shake.
a fair shot, and that's not really a fair assessment. Everyone else in the family seems to like this movie, and the song is catchy, so I rewatched it, and I still just don't like it as a movie.
Really?
I don't know. I don't know what it is about it. I'm just like, I would rather be watching something else. So that is my adult take on That Thing You Do, which is that I also don't like it. But but I feel like it is this funny thing where I think even last week we were talking about this movie in Office, and you were talking about it, and I was like, yeah, I don't really like that movie, and you were like, what? And Ethan, the editor, was like, Ben, we've had this conversation like 6 times.
That is so funny. I know. I mean, it's just like, I don't know why it like shocks me so much, because like I remember watching That Thing You Do as a kid, and I remember like the next day being so excited, and I went into like the Tupperware drawer and pulled out all of like the Tupperware containers and like built myself like a drum set.
Oh, a drum set,
and then,
yeah.
Like, went and got like a couple of like bamboo skewers for like kebabs or something like
Right.
that, and was like playing the drums. And I just thought that like Guy is the drummer. He's sort of like the main character. And I mean, I just remember thinking like he was just like so cool.
Yeah.
Like he just like understood like, like what made music great and
Right.
everything. And I even
He was
thought
only ever in it for the music.
Right.
And
yeah.
the girl.
And the girl. But like I remember as a kid, I was actually just thinking about this over the weekend as well. There was a band that like we listened to sort of like during like the boy band era called Five, I think. Possibly. Does that ring a bell to you? I think I had the CD and I knew exactly one song, of which I can't even remember what the name of it is now, but I'm sure if you know of the band Five, you know exactly which one I'm talking about. But Dad had these big speakers in our living room, and I remember like sitting in front of the speakers and like putting the CD in, and I mean I would like sit with my back to the speaker and just like listen
to it,
like
man.
big volume.
What a profoundly different effect this movie had on us.
I know. Yeah, it's just like it's so funny because and we talk about it all the time too, and that's probably the other piece of it is like we talk all the time about how like music is not our forte, like how neither of us really have like known how to play like a musical instrument, and like even my big thing is that I always like you just cannot remember the lyrics to anything.
Oh, but you could remember That Thing You Do?
Well, I mean, I can remember That
Yeah.
Thing You Do because it's incredibly catchy
Yeah.
and amazing in every single way. And I mean, it's just completely infallible. But it is interesting to me because it's like as I've gotten older, like I remember when I was like rock climbing, for example, like there were moments, and one of the coolest things to me about rock climbing was like the way in which you could go and do it with your friends was like everybody could be like talking and hanging out and socializing. Like it could be just as much sitting down like at the bar to like have a couple of drinks with your friends and just catching up or whatever. But in the meantime, instead of like sipping on like a drink, you were like climbing the wall.
Right.
And so like when it was like your turn to go, it was almost like everybody sort of like sat back and was like this like little mini audience, if you will. And it was like I think that it's like the closest I've ever felt to feeling like a rock star.
Rock star.
Yeah, I didn't even mean to, but I'm so glad at how it worked out.
Right.
In my entire life though, because like even like when we did like the live version of The Pop, it was something where it's like, I know that for 180 episodes now, we've been able to successfully go in, sit down, and record, approximately an hour of us having like discussion with some level of intention behind it. And yet, like, it's still not something that like I view as a skill. Like every single time we come in to sit down, I'm still thinking like, what if today is the day that we finally don't have enough to say? And it's just like,
that's it.
And it's just like there's no more. But like and so like I think like when I were to like walk out in front of a crowd of people for The Pop, it's not like what I'm about to demonstrate for you is a skill that I know that I possess. What I'm walking out to is like nerves. Like I feel like scared and worried that like this group of people, because even when we record here in the room, it's like if we run off the rails and there's like nothing else left to say, and it's kind of like whatever, like, hey, let's go back to our show notes, or like let's pause for a second, we can make a cut here, we can like figure out how to like get back on track or whatever, find a new conversation topic that's got like more like depth to it. It was like if I run off the rails in front of this huge group of people, then it will be all of these people like watching me fail. And so it's like that was like less empowering in the way that like when I used to rock climb, it would be like, it's like I mean, you're talking like a group of like possibly from 2 to like 6 people max who are watching you here. And yet I still felt like very, very, very like proud because it was like, I'm about to go up and I'm about to do something difficult. And it's like, but I think I can do it.
Right.
And to be fair, it's like, it's not like a bunch of people didn't watch me fail at finishing a climb on numerous occasions.
Right.
However, what it has done to me is made me wonder if part of the huge appeal of performing as a musician is like you're walking out onto that stage playing songs that you know how to play.
Right.
And so it's like it's almost like, if I were to be able to back in the day, I mean, I can't climb that well now, but like at my peak, it's like if I were to be able to go out in front of a crowd of like hundreds of screaming voices and throw down a V5 or something and be like, boom, mic drop. Yeah, it's like I'd be like on cloud 9, and I'm like, I wonder if that's the sensation that musicians get when they go out there, because like they know that they can play the song,
right?
But now what you also
they don't have to make up a new song every time they go out and play.
Precisely,
yeah.
which in some ways, and not to, in any way to suggest that sitting in a chair talking to my brother for an hour is harder than learning an instrument and being able to perform and sing and all the rest of the things at the same time.
Right.
However, like the thought of being able to meticulously and carefully prepare so that when I walked out in front of a group of people, I knew exactly what I was doing. It's like, that is something that I'm like, oh, that feels so great. And so like when I go back and like to bring it back full circle to that thing you do, I'm like, I wonder if like that is a piece of like what I was able to gather, or why this movie like resonated with me in such a way, was because it was almost like that first vicarious taste of like what that might feel like, like what that sensation could be.
Right.
And to me, I think it's like, so I think I talked about this in the main episode. I did buy a guitar. I am still too terrified of it to really do anything. but I've taken like the first step. I have an email in for some lessons. So
nice.
That
Good
should
for
be
you.
That should be starting in the next couple of weeks. But there is like a part of me that's like, maybe at some point in time, this is gonna have to be like on my bucket list, and I'm just gonna have to like figure out a way to like eventually perform confidently in front of anyone, 3 people.
Man, well, I look forward to it. I'll be there.
Maybe I'll have a rock maybe I'll have a rock concert at the climbing gym.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. Hilarious. Anyway,
hilarious.
It feels like a good place to close out for today's episode. How do you feel? Anything else you want to touch on before we take off?
Well, I had maybe like I had some maybe like interesting shower thoughts.
Oh,
as it were, because I know people are invested in my shower saga.
Yeah, you know what? I'm just, you know what? Forget anything about closing out the episode.
I'll tell you what was interesting to me is that after I told my big shower repair saga the other week, like our friend Mike came up and he was like, dude, I am so invested in what happens with it. And then like I was like, oh, that's surprising, because like we talk about a bunch of different things that this like stood out. And then we went to our parents' house for Mother's Day, and Dad was like, oh my gosh, I'm so interested. Did you fix the shower? And I was like, boy, this story really hit home. I don't even know.
Apparently,
apparently.
Everybody's just like, I mean, it's like, good, Ben. Glad to hear you want to learn an instrument. But what we really want to know, the real hard hitting stuff, is
what happened to Jay's shower. So I will tell you that I have two shower things. One, at least at home, I think it is still dripping very lightly, but it is like dripping in such a way that it hits the faucet and then like drips a second time to the ground. And like the break in the fall, like I can't hear it hit the faucet, and then it's like such a low drop to the ground that I can no longer hear it.
Okay.
So as far as I'm concerned, problem solved. I mean, obviously it's not entirely, because it still drips a little bit, but I can't hear it anymore, and that's really the big deal.
Okay. Amazing.
So there's that. However, Ben, that is not my only shower ailment at the moment.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
At this point in time, I think that you should just forego internal plumbing entirely and just purely shower when it rains.
Well, this is that'd be great.
Storms are brewing. Where's the shampoo?
Where's the shower? Gotta go outside. This one isn't even a plumbing related problem, Ben. So 2 days a week before work, you and I go to the gym with our trainer Gabriel, work out, and then I will just go straight from there to the office where I will then like shower and get ready for the day.
Yeah.
So we have a shower here at the office, and in that bathroom where the shower is, I'm sure you are acutely aware that the light fixture in there has ceased to function.
Yeah, we did.
Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Correct.
So, and I don't know in what capacity it is not working, but for a while, like there's 3 light bulbs in there, and for a while 2 of them were just burnt out, which wasn't a big deal because the lone light bulb that was remaining was bright enough to really light up the whole bathroom.
It goes to show, though, like the level of maintenance that is important to you and I as people.
Yeah.
It's like, I think plenty of people are like, ooh, light bulb burned out, gotta go fix that right away. And it's like, it's fine. We can still see.
At my house, that is how I am.
Okay.
Yeah, but like at work, like it eventually came to pass that one day, like I realized that I went to go turn the light off and it didn't go off. Like the switch didn't turn the light off anymore.
Yes. It was a weird problem.
It was a weird problem. I've never had this problem before. And eventually what that meant was that for like a week straight, the light just could not be turned off until I guess the bulb burnt out, which is not a surprise because it was on 24/7 for like a week.
Yep.
So eventually it burned out. But what that means is that it was completely dark in the bathroom. And it's like one of those things where because we were unable to switch it off, I'm also hesitant to just go and replace the light bulbs because as far as I'm concerned, it's still like on.
Yeah,
you know?
true.
So it's
right,
like if you like, I remember it not being able to be turned off. So if we go and are we going to be turning light bulbs into an active switch, like I don't want to get like it feels like there might be some sort of electrical problem happening there. Anyway, as ever, we have a stopgap solution, which is that we just had like a little tower lamp sitting out in the office that really never gets used and was just sort of aesthetic, but we moved it into the bathroom, and so now we have this like small lamp in the bathroom that we have to turn on whenever you're going in there for whatever purpose you need to use the bathroom for. And I have to tell you, it's not as effective as the lone light bulb was.
Yeah, no, not at all.
It's still fairly dark in there.
It's pretty dim.
It's pretty dim
It reminds whenever I describe my brain desk, it reminds me of the lamp that illuminates my brain desk.
Right, yes.
It's kind of like a measly lamp.
Yeah, it is a measly lamp, and as such, it has meant that for the past like 2 weeks, I've mostly just been showering in the semi-dark, which is a really weird sensation.
Right. It's like, how often in my life would I have done this for any other reason?
Right, but what it is also illuminated to me is that like even though the situation, this is like a weird realization, is that like when you're in there, like with the tiny light, even though it's not that different from when the other lights were on, like in terms of how the bathroom is lit, which is to say by light bulbs, it is like so much more apparent that it is dark in the bathroom if you don't turn the lights on. Okay, that sounds obvious.
So what you're saying is that when there aren't lights on, it's dark.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
I can follow this logic.
You can follow the okay. When the regular lights are on, the bathroom is so lit up that it feels light in there.
Yes.
But now that there's just a single tiny light bulb, you can turn a light on so that you can see, but it is mostly dark in there.
Right.
Right. So this was my realization, is that like when you're in a space that is only lit by artificial light, even though you can see, you are in the dark. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right?
It
like
does.
You have like, I don't know.
This feels like an analogy to me for even when you are someone who is positive minded and surrounded by a bunch of people who aren't.
Right.
You're still in the dark.
Right. So like this is what I wrote down, is if the only light is artificial light, then yes, you can see in the dark, but you are still in the dark.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, okay. I got you. So like if you're like walking through the woods at night just because you have a flashlight, it's like, yes, you can see like the next 10 steps, but you're still like, it's still dark around you.
Right. Yes, exactly. Like you are still in the dark even though you can see.
Right.
Right? Like what you've done when you build walls and put lights in there is you just trap all that light in there. So the dark appears to have disappeared.
Right.
But it is not. You are in the dark because it is artificially lit. So I don't know, like to me that just felt like I feel like there's some sort of like metaphor or some sort of like biological thing in there that speaks to the importance of natural light.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
Right,
I mean,
like if you're sitting next to a window and that window is letting in sunlight, then it is genuinely light in the room.
Right. Yes, I understand. And I mean, this is where like I think once upon a time we saw like a recommendation that like the best way to get better sleep at night is to like between like 11 a.m. and noon is to go and sit outside for like 15 minutes in direct sunlight.
Right.
Like there's no doubt about it that like being in sunlight is healthier. But for some reason, the entire time you've been describing this, I feel like I've been feeling like a very like intense emotional reaction, just literally to nothing to do with light bulbs at all and everything to do with like general positivity, as like when you're in the presence of true positivity, it is enlightening.
Right.
And when you are in the presence of someone who is being nice but not truly positive, it is like artificial light.
It is artificial light. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. It was sort of that like, it just made me think about like if you worked like in a building or something and there weren't windows that you had ready access to, like if you worked in a section of a building that was only artificially lit, that in some like interpretation of it, you were waking up and going and sitting effectively in a dark room all day, even though you could see.
Yeah.
You know, like, and there was something just like really sad about that. And it felt like just so like foreign and icky, and I don't know. It was like, and it sounds so dumb because it sounds so obvious even when you say it,
right?
That like there would be a difference between like, and then you might say like, well, what's the difference between sunlight and artificial light? And it's like the difference is that we evolved via the sunlight.
Yes,
know?
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like our bodies are a result of the planet floating through space with the sun hitting it. So we are like, as humans and creatures who live on Earth, attuned to this celestial body in a way that we are not with lights that we artificially create around the world, you know.
Remarkably well said.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm so glad that we didn't end the podcast.
I know. Well, I was like, I feel like you're gonna like this one. So.
I do like it a lot. I mean, and it's like I feel like the number one thing it makes me want to do is just go and like stand in some like sunbeams.
Well,
or
I
something.
know. I was like, this is like this. Then it just made me feel like this is a real problem because there are lots of people who just must be sitting in the dark all day, every day. Like. That just seems like that's a problem. That's got to be fixed. That can't be. You can't be sitting in the dark all day. That's terrible.
Sure.
Like artificially lit is effectively the dark, is what I'm saying.
Oh my gosh.
You know?
Yeah.
Like now,
okay.
like in our office, we do actually have sunroofs, which is really nice. So we can have pretty ready access to sunlight all day long.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I like when I worked at the concert venue, the first like I think year, maybe year and a half I was there. This was like one of those things that was like at some point. Some offices opened on the other side of the building, and so like me and the director of marketing got to like move our offices over there, at which point an entire wall of my office became giant windows.
Yes.
Which was awesome.
It was a really cool office.
Yeah, it was a really cool office, and I was like, it was such an upgrade. But then, like, it wasn't like, oh, like your old office is now just going to be used by this like lower person on the totem pole or something. My old office became a storage closet.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it was this like sort of like bittersweet thing. It was like, man, I'm so happy to have gotten this brand new office, but also effectively they like. At the same time, these people had me working in a closet.
Right.
Like,
right.
what is going... And then now I think back, I'm like, I was working in the dark. I was working in the dark that whole time. I was just sitting there in the dark.
Right.
With the lights on.
I genuinely think this is like one of those things. Like, well, I just finished like another reread of Atomic Habits, which is a book that I would recommend to anybody. But I feel like finding a way to ensure that you are more frequently near the celestial sun.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Like this on like a daily basis, like making sure that is like somehow built into your daily like procedures.
Yeah.
It's like that will improve. Like it will make you happier.
Right.
You know. So like that's something to seek out, something to prioritize, something to like make important. And it is funny to me as well that this is even something that like needs a reminder in any way, shape, or form, because it like when you zoom back and think about it in the way that we're discussing it right now, it's like it all feels like extremely obvious.
Right.
Like it's
I know.
This
it's like,
goes without saying. But
right.
like
because like I'm in the shower and it's like it's the same thing. You know.
Right.
It's like there's just less light bulbs on.
Right.
So now it just feels darker. But the fact is, it was being lit in the same way. So I've always been standing and showering in the dark. It's just been that there were more lights on.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Anyway, this is my new I don't know. It was like a weird thing and I was like thinking about, and then it was like just giving me the feels.
No, I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. And what better way to recommend people to our miles managed step competition?
Exactly. Go outside and walk.
Yeah, so where you can go outside and get some fresh,
Get some fresh
sunshine.
Some sweet sunlight.
Yes. So just soak it in.
Bring it in, man.
Be more like a plant.
Exactly. Be more like plants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good mantra for the day.
No doubt.
Guys, as ever, all of the information to join the step competition is going to be in the show notes. At the bottom of this episode, where do show notes go? In the show notes. They'll be there in the show notes.
Yeah.
In the description. All
Right.
the places where you might find information about this episode. It is super easy to join. It only takes a couple of seconds. The app is super easy interface. I don't think I've really heard anybody complain about it at all. It's just incredibly straightforward and easy to use.
Yep.
And again, it's also free to partake. So we would love to have you come and be a part of it, and we'll cheer you on, and you can cheer us on, and we can exchange great stories of sunlight exposure. It'll be awesome.
Yeah, it'll be great.
Otherwise, it is also, I think we're closing in on the last week to get in for the exclusive quarterly merch mug, which again is going to be that handmade mug from Deneen Pottery. If you want to check that out, you can do the quarterly merch tier over at patreon.com/popcornculture. But otherwise, guys, until next time,
Pop, pop.